All right, most people will never run a marathon. Fewer will ever attempt a 73. Damn it. All right, sec run two here. Most people will never run a marathon. Fewer will ever attempt a 70.3 Ironman. Almost no one chooses to run 50 miles through the Grand Canyon on purpose, that is. But today's guest did. Let's get into it. Parker, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, happy to have you, man. So tell us about the Grand Canyon run. How did this come about?
Yeah, so Grand Canyon, it was an experience, one of the coolest experiences of my life. How did it start? My roommate, Tyler Morales, who hopefully your listeners can meet at some point, pretty special character. He set up a last man standing race just from our house in the Presidio. Last man standing is 4 point something miles on the hour every hour. And I had been into running a little bit, but was just getting into it. And basically, we had one of those in January, last man standing, and post that race, everybody does some miles, thinks it's a good idea, and two of the guys in the city were just over at our house. I think we were like sitting on the couch watching football or something, and all of a sudden we're buying plane tickets to the Grand Canyon. No plans of mine to do this. One of the guys in the group had done it the year prior, and kind of just one thing led to another. It didn't really feel real until we ended up like standing on the south rim the day before. So I guess logistically just flew into Phoenix from SF. We all got in on a Friday, hit the grocery store, and then headed up to the rim. And yeah, I guess it wasn't a real experience until you're sitting at that south rim. And for those of you that haven't been to the Grand Canyon or haven't been down in the Grand Canyon, I highly recommend. It's a special place. It's one of the seven wonders for a reason, for sure.
Yeah.
And yeah, they had done it before. They just kept telling me, "Oh, it's like an over glorified hike. You'll do fine." Not something that I even really knew how to train for. And they talked me into it. And looking back on it now, it was a super fun experience. All day, single day, rim to rim to rim is technically what it's called. So it's like south rim up to north rim back to south is how we ran it.
Damn.
And yeah, it was like I think 15 hours was our goal, and we finished in just under 15 hours, and it's one of the hardest, but one of the most rewarding experiences that I've had thus far in my life, for sure.
Holy shit.
Okay, dude, there's a ton to unpack there. Let's start towards the beginning.
Yeah,
So you did the last man standing race,
yeah.
and how many people did you guys put together for that? And then how many miles did you guys do it like for? Like, did you do, and how many did like the winner, or did you win that race?
I did not win. So I guess Tyler and his brother Brandon, who's also a pretty psychopath ultra runner, like maybe actually the most. He's doing that mammoth race too. He has a charity in Seattle area. For it's called Food Intentions. I don't remember, like I think it's serving under, or like purchasing meals for underserved communities in Seattle. He can definitely speak more to that specifically, but Tyler wanted to put on something for him, and both of those guys over the last, I think, year and a half have been super into running. Nobody had done a last man standing before. Brandon maybe had done a last man standing, and Tyler's like, I'm gonna do this. He wanted to do something to help his brother's charity, so he set it up. It was actually just from our house in the city through the Presidio. It's like a 4.2 mile loop on the hour every hour, and you just go until there's one person left. In this case, him and Tyler and Brandon both did 12 laps. I did 11, so that was like 40 something miles, almost 50 miles, and blew out of the water what I thought I could ever do. It wasn't really something that I mean, it's a different format, so you never really know like what it's like, because you stop every hour for at least a portion. And I guess once I got the bug in me from that, I just decided, like, we'll see where this can take us. We were sitting on the couch, like I mentioned earlier, and they're like, "Dude, we're gonna do this Grand Canyon rim to rim to rim." And yeah, one thing led to another. But the last man standing format's super cool. I highly recommend for anybody that hasn't done it before.
No, that's a badass race, and it reminds me too. I'm sure you've seen it, the BPN one that got put
Yeah,
on that
Yeah.
went completely viral, right?
yeah.
Because
Just
those
go
guys
one
ended up
more
doing what,
ranch.
230 miles or something before they got pulled off by weather.
For sure. Like those guys, yeah, those guys, and that's what I could see this race having become. It was the first one, but I think he's probably gonna set it up again, and
Oh,
we'll
nice.
it'll start to become hopefully something a little bit bigger. But yeah, that it was the exact same format as the Go One More, a little bit more like backyard style where it was less set up than that one was. Like we just did
Right.
it from our garage. We invited all the friends in the city, but it was a super big success. I think he had sponsors for the charity that would donate like $5 or $10 a lap per person, and I think it was like 200 or 300 laps total were run, so it was a ton of fun. Um,
Nice.
yeah,
Yeah, let us know
crazy.
if there's another one coming up. Let me know. I'd love to fly out there for that.
Yeah,
I
I
would
think we'll do
be
it in
very interested in
January.
that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's sick. So wait, how many laps did the winner do? Do we know what the mileage was
Um,
there?
so Tyler and Brandon actually both stopped at 12, just because everybody was out supporting all day. Those two would
Yeah.
have battled it on for sure into the night. I think the format is
Brother versus
technically,
brother.
yeah, I think the
Yeah.
format's technically 24 hours. Winner did 12, which is just about 50 miles.
Damn.
Yeah,
Jeez. That's
or
crazy.
mutual agree. Kind of like what happened at the Go One More, but much smaller scale, much less viral. 50
Sure. Yeah.
miles they
Yeah.
agree to be done rather than 230 miles get forcefully pulled off and have co-winners.
Mhm. And was your experience there with that race? Was that the most mileage you've ever done in one day? Did that get was
Yeah,
kind of like your PR for a
yeah, I
sense?
think so. I've been like up to 50 Ks on the trail a little bit, but that was a whole another 8 to 10 miles, and maybe boosted confidence a little bit more in the moment, because
Yeah.
you have the endorphins still, or it's the next day, legs are sore, but you're like that was a really cool experience, and they took advantage of me at the most vulnerable point, I guess, because I was like super fired up on it, and I was like, this is a sick event. Let's try more, and boom, next thing you know, we're signed up for the next one that quickly.
Yeah.
Flights purchased, and no backing out then.
So then, did you were you in endurance sports before that, or when did that? Was this the race that got you into that, or can you talk about that a little bit?
I guess for running, yeah, this was kind of it. I've done a couple 70.3s, and that actually kind of started the same experience. Like post college, I didn't really like endurance sports. I always like to cycle. I've been cycling my whole life, but I wasn't into anything else. And kind of similar experience to even get into to triathlon and 70.3s was like I had a friend that wanted to sign up for the 70.3 in Morrow just because that's where we went to college, and kind of had a connection there. His cousin was doing it, and so we all ended up signing up, and then somehow it ended up just being me that was doing that first one. But I decided to lock in, and that's kind of what opened the door. Like that first training regiment for that first 70.3 in 2023 was really the first experience to endurance sports, and what changed my life, honestly, because I wasn't even a big runner at that time. And then you just start to build, and things start to come together, and then now it's like a passion of mine that I like to do. So trail running definitely up there, but cycling and triathlon will remain in the rotation for sure.
Gotcha. That's awesome, dude. Okay, so now fast forwarding back to your Grand Canyon race. So now you guys fly out there, and what was that experience like? Did you have any idea of what you're really getting into? I know you said you hinted at a little bit that you're just like, oh, it's not going to be too bad, but
Yeah.
what was it like once you actually got out to that race and knew what you were like this you were doing 50 miles to the Grand Canyon?
Yeah. Definitely it wasn't real until you were there. We fly out on a Friday. We all rent a minivan. There's 6 dudes in a minivan. We drive. It's a beautiful drive from Phoenix up to the Grand Canyon. Um, and yeah, we stop. We get stuff from just a grocery store. Everybody's packing full of food, and then we get up there before sundown, and that's when the nerves really started to hit. I would think I was like confident. I mean, they were always telling me like, oh, it's just a big hike. It's like it's self supported, so it's but there's water stations and stuff throughout the Grand Canyon, and it was like not really real until you get eyes on and you look across, and they're just casually pointing to that other side, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we're going there, and then we're going to turn around and come back." So that's when the nerves started to hit. The group I was with, one of the guys had done it before, and there was six of us total, so they were able to keep it super light. I don't think it wasn't like an anxious nerves until the morning of, I think, or night before. Like you're trying to get good sleep and it's impossible. So we went out to this place. It's literally like at the South Village, and it's for sure just for people for loading up carbs. It's called like We Cook Pasta and Pizza, and so we just loaded up on like probably 4 or 5 thousand calories each of like just fettuccine alfredo, like homemade, and that's when the
So
nerves are starting to hit. We scarf down food, and then you go back and you go to bed, but you got to be ready to get up at 3 a.m. We were 4 a.m. start into the canyon. So get to sleep by 10, but not actually. You're kind of tossing and turning, nervous for sure, and then 3:30 rolls around, and there's the alarm. Packing stuff in. It still doesn't. To me, it still didn't feel real. A lot of the other guys I did it with have done hundreds, and some of them were even getting ready for 200. So they were all kind of locked in, and I was just like the one guy there that this was the first experience, and kind of following their lead. And then even worse, we get to the trailhead. We're getting ready to start. Everybody's got their packs on, headlamps on, stretched out, and as we literally, like, as we jump into the start of the South Rim Trail, we see these three dudes come hiking up at 4 a.m. and they had started 4 a.m. the day before, and they were like, "Yeah, we just did rim to rim to rim. We got lost and we made a wrong turn, and I don't know if we were prepared." And they were literally coming out as we go in, and I was like, that was a little bit of panic for sure. I was like, what am I doing here? Like, I'm not ready to be out here for 24 hours. Like, I don't know if I have the layers for overnight. And then your brain starts racing. And then I think then from there, it's just like, it just becomes real. You just drop in, and it's in the nighttime to start. So you're just following the guy in front of you, one headlamp after another. And then, yeah, you go from there. The nerves settle down once you get maybe a mile in, and you're just like, all right, well we're already here now. Like, we'll just see how it goes.
how's that the descent right away? I've never been to the Grand Canyon, so like elevation wise, like how are we talking for that first initial couple miles?
Straight down. So
Yeah.
actually, it's like Grand Canyon. I think it was like we were right at about 50 miles, and like I think it was 13,000 vertical, and
Okay.
obviously the
Damn.
vertical is both ends. So
Hmm.
you like literally step down, and you're on almost stairs for the first 11 miles, all the way down to the Colorado River at the bottom. Like there are some flatter spots, so you're right into it, and we're straight downhill. There's six of us. We all have headlamps. Some have the belt lamps that um, people use for running, and it was not forgiving, not a warm up. It was straight down.
What's that pace like? Are you guys just like at this point just hiking down? I imagine probably playing it pretty safe because it's pitch black out, or
Yeah, like a slow jog. I would say we're trying to make up some miles, right? When you have that much to go, and you know when you're going up it, you're going to be hiking just because it's so steep that we were
hmm
trying to bury some miles early. So we were slow jog, and then as sun came up, we got a little bit more aggressive. It's funny because you don't really realize until first light like where you are or what it is, because like you're just
yeah,
following this rock path back and forth, and then as the sun starts to come up, and it wasn't even that long because of the time of year we did it. Like the first light was probably by 4:45, 5. You're still switchbacking down. You're like, damn, like those
3 hours.
little
Yeah.
turns that I thought were just like a quick U-turn. If I was like one step too far, I'm tumbling down mountains. And then that was another reset too, right? When you start to see the light, and like I had been there, but I had never really been down in it. Um, and it's humbling, but it was also just like watching the sunrise, and it's just you and those five dudes out there. Like it was a surreal experience. That was probably the best part of the day, was sunrise as you start to hit the bottom.
Yeah.
So then, okay, so let's go through a little bit of the race. So then, when did you start to? Were there ever times you struggled, or like what was the hardest part of the race for you?
for sure, the hardest part for me was, I guess I had two really hard points. At a certain point, we got separated as a group. There was a couple guys behind me, a couple guys in front of me. I would say there's like a long, relatively flat section after you come down the south rim. So between mile like 40 and 42 is just like this flat, windy section before you get back to Phantom Ranch, which is at the bottom, and then you have the 8 mile hellish climb out. And at that point, I was struggling with some GI issues, which sometimes is a trend for me. And I wasn't able to eat as much as I could, so it was just kind of mundane, just one step after another, trying to log some miles on the flats, like a little bit faster, because our goal was to finish before the sunset, and we still had a big climb at the end. And just started to feel out of it. Got to Phantom Ranch, which is like the camp at the bottom that a lot of people will like hike down to and camp at. Um, and I was like, dude, there's no way I'm about to climb 5,000 vertical in 8 miles. Like I'm feeling wrecked. Um, and so we just sat there, popped up a couple ketone IQs, and then drank like two things of lemonade. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna go to the bathroom, dunk my face in the water, regroup, and see if we can do this. And then from there on, the rest of the day was pretty awful until you hit the rim, and then once you come over top, it's a whole different experience, which we get into. But that whole climb out was was tough. It was just one foot after another, and the way the Grand Canyon looks as you're looking up to it, it's like false fronts. I swear there was like three or four false fronts, and it's just like, dude, you got to be there close. You're like, you're checking your watch. You're like, I've only gone like half a mile. Like I know where it ends at, and it's tracking, and I'm just checking my watch, and it's like you go up this first plateau, and you're like, I got to be halfway, not even close to halfway. You go up this next plateau, you got to be like, it's right around the corner. Look down at the watch, you're like, still 4 miles, and I know those 4 miles are all straight up, and yeah, just the way you go, and then it's kind of cool though too, because so many people are out there. Um, like there's all kinds of different people that go to the Grand Canyon. Some that are just going down and up. Some that are just even at the rim that are walking down part way for the day. So it was cool to see some of those people, and then those people ask you, or you just get to chatting with people on the trail, and they're like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Oh, we just did cross to the rim and back," and they're like, "You're nuts," and it kind of gives you a little bit more of like a, we're all going to get out of this together, like a little bit of a push for sure. But the end was a tough day. And then the only other weird or tough thing that we didn't foresee was the north rim. There's a bunch of like or not cattle trains, like horseback like tours down in. There's people that have like, and we didn't expect mule train is the word I'm looking for. We didn't expect to have to pass mule trains on a single track. Um, but that was a little bit of a delay that put in our rundown, because you got to get around these things. They smell, they're kicking up dust, and you're just now starting your second half, right? So you're like dropping down in. You want to again log some miles while it's downhill, and we're trying to figure out how to pass these mule trains. So that was a little bit of an adversity part of the day too. They're kicking up dust, and it was just all around a wild experience.
Tell me about the nutrition a little more, right? So I guess how are you guys packing in there? Like what type of packs are you guys wearing to bring? How much food are you guys bringing? What's the nutrition like?
Yeah, I would say you all like, our goal was to do as much, or at least my goal personally was to do as much like solid food as you can. Um, I think that's just for me. I struggle a little bit with those sugary things.
Yeah.
Like, and that's a lot of sports nutrition stuff. So Cliff Bars, uh, peanut butter and jellies, just kind of whatever high calorie Pop Tarts. Like it's funny, just the things that you can eat. Lots of supplements. We're a lot of salt pills, honestly. Um, so I think we're wearing those Solomon ADV packs, and we all have, I think, the two water bottles in the front, and then at least a liter and a half on the back. Um, Both those have a carb mix in them, and then probably we each went through like maybe 8 to 10 elements, just because it's starting to get hot, the air's dry. So that was kind of our biggest goal, I think, for everybody, was make sure that you have enough sodium.
And don't cramp.
Yeah, don't cramp because if you cramp, you're gonna have a horrible day. I think our biggest focus was sodium and carb mix. I had two bottles on the front. One had two elements in it. One had I used the goo Roctane mix, but everybody had something similar, Tailwind, etc. Um, and just to load up on that, that seems to be easier on the stomach for me. So carb mix, and then Cliff Bars. Honestly, we had tons of Cliff Bars, peanut butter and jellies, the little fruit like that's it bars.
Mhm.
And then it was just once you get started to make sure that you're constantly eating, constantly taking in salt. By the time we got to the bottom, we're coming back up the first time. It was start to introduce caffeine and start to suck that down as much as you can, and then really just water. Right, that's the biggest one. We were super fortunate. I guess the North Rim had just opened, but we were at like the last water station before we do the big climb out, and the group in front of us was like, "Hey, just so you know, this is the last water until you get back down to here," which we weren't planning because we thought everything would be open on the North Rim, but I guess water, like some pipe had bursted throughout the winter. Um, so fortunate enough, we were able to like refill all of our water there and brought it with us up top. But that was the biggest hurdle, honestly, like nutrition, because a lot of just solid food and then hydrating, stay
Mhm.
on top of sodium and liquid for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't done any of those. I haven't done anything over a marathon. So like nutrition's never been solid food. It's always the goos and trying to do that like every, 45 minutes, 50 minutes. Um, so that's interesting. You got to definitely make sure you're not cramping up. I guess that would
Yeah,
be a nightmare if you're 25 miles in and you're
for sure.
cramping up. At that point, it's like, what do you? You gotta get all the way back. That's crazy.
I think at that point you're like full reset. You probably sit down, you probably
Yeah.
grab some rest, grab some water, and just chill until you can stretch it back out. I think, yeah, because cramping. And the last 70.3 I had cramping issues because of nutrition. So I was Morton's. I know that's a big one now. That was completely cut. I don't know if it's even to blame 100% from the 70.3 I did, but it was just not going to be mixed in. So we did a lot of the Go gels too. That was probably the closest thing to like the goo stuff that I did. And then even it's fun because like you can just pop candy, right? Just like little sugars. Like we had like watermelon, Sour Patch Kids or Sour Patch watermelons, and just anything that was simple sugar. We had
Mhm.
the whole way.
Yeah, that's the thing about those trainings, right? You can literally eat whatever you want. It's kind of the best.
Burning
Yeah,
so many calories, so it's just
for
you got
sure.
to get it back somehow.
Yeah.
Just make it
So
all
how
work.
did you deal with the mental fatigue? I'm sure it comes in at some point, right? You're in that race and you're going through, and like I can relate to, because I've done like the 70.3 stuff, but I've never actually done an ultra where you're actually just on your feet with all that pounding. But when there's a certain point, I think you hit a spot where it's like you're in like that midpoint, and Tyler's talked about this with the marathon too. Is miles 20s, like the 20 miles, where you hit that point where it's okay, like there's still a good amount left. We've come a pretty far away, but like it's you're not there yet. And so I'm curious how you deal with that, and how is there any practice that you have, or when mental fatigue starts to kick in, what do you do to overcome that?
Yeah. I guess that was the longest experience I've ever had. And yes, I definitely got the mental fatigue. Like at the bottom, staring the hill, the south rim in the face was for sure. There were points in my brain where like I was just we stopped at the bathrooms at the bottom, like at the river, and there was no way I thought I was gonna make it out of there. Honestly, it was like I was like I'm sleeping down here, and then I'm gonna hike out in the morning. Like there's all these campsites. I'm sure I could find a place to stay. Was literally the thought in my brain. How I overcame it was honestly the support of the guys that were there, and I think that's why like you see in those ultra races that you get pacers because I think that changes your whole perspective when you have somebody else there with you. Like yeah, you're the one that has to do it physically, but like I had two guys with me that hung out with me the whole time because by the end I was definitely moving slow. I would say it's it's just support from those guys, and then one foot in front of the other. I think at that point it was like achieve a couple steps, achieve this next ridge, and then that was what was going to flow the rest of the way. But there were points where I did not think I would get out, and I would even sit down in the dirt, and my buddy would sit there next to me, and he's like, dude, just take all the time you need. I'm like, I just want to get the fuck out of here though. Honestly, like I don't want to take all the time I need, but just even that quick reset. But I think for me, it was literally just one foot in front of the other. And I think every time you do that, you're like, oh, I can do that. Let's do one more, and then one more, and then next thing you know, you're halfway up, and you still don't think you're going to get out. But then you look back behind you, and you're like, well, we're that far up. We can make it now the rest of the way. But I think the mental fatigue for me is almost just how I responded to that was shut the brain off and literally just stop thinking about it. The legs can still move apparently, and I think that's what people say is that it really isn't your body that's going to give out first 100%. And that I witnessed that whole experience, right? Because at the end of the day, I thought I was going to sleep down there, and I didn't think I was going to make it out of there, at least that day, and not like very good or anything. But you just have to let the brain just like cut it. Like you're like this is what's stopping me. My legs still have some gas in them, although those were sore. It was really like I can't think about this anymore. I'm just gonna let the feet do the thing.
Yeah, it's like we've talked about this before, like the David Goggins 40% rule, right? Where you're at 40% of your capacity when you think you want to quit, and being able to push through that.
True. That's
But then yeah,
that was I was up against that for sure. But then once you get to the end, you're like, oh well, that was the hardest thing I've ever done. But then the endorphins just start to fly. Like as soon as you get to the top, it's like one of the best things you've ever felt. And for some reason, the trailhead that we came up, we had a group of like two guys back at the car already. The trailhead you came up, you have like you still have like half a mile to get to the road. It's just flat and it's just road, but like part of that mental thing was like once I got to the top, I thought I was done. So that part was even harder. I was like, dude, you're done with the Grand Canyon, but you have like this 3/4 of a mile that you have to do to get back to the car on completely flat. And I was just like on poles, just like almost crutching my way because at that point I was like, I had done it, right? I thought that was it. And it was like, you're telling me
False,
I gotta walk another mile? Like,
another false summit.
yeah, for sure. Also,
That's good. So tell us about the experience of finally getting to that top, right? First of all, did you guys make it by sunrise or sorry, sunset?
we did. Yeah,
What
our
was
goal
what was
was
the
15,
okay, yeah.
15
What was the
hours, and
total time? Yeah.
we were like 14:30, I think I want to say.
Nice.
Yeah, so just under, and getting to the top was like even the last like final switchback is when you start to get like happy, or I don't know if happy is the right word, but almost relieved. You can when you actually do see the top after so many false tops, it was like you're guarded at first, right? You're like, nah, that's not it, and then you start to you realize it's it. Um, and getting to the top is it's like instant gratification, I guess. Even though it's not instant, that's what it feels like, right? Like it was just such a brutal day. It almost lets you decompress everything mentally, physically, and that's why that last like quarter mile or half mile, whatever it was, from parking lot back to where the actual car was hard because you get to the top, and it's happiness. It's also relief. It's also like you're proud, I guess is the word. I don't know the exact word, but hard to believe that you just did what you did, and you can kind of let it all go. Was the experience, and then it was like, all right, one more quarter mile or one more half mile, and you're like, all right, we'll make it happen. We'll make it happen now. But gratification for sure.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Yeah, the feeling of accomplishment after you've done a hard task like that is very very rewarding, very fulfilling. Um yeah, did that was that like in moments of your life Was that top five?
Yeah, I would say
Or is
so.
that, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was one of the most fulfilling experiences ever. It was one of the coolest views, and even just looking back on it, right? It was not just your own physical accomplishments, although that was probably the most, but it was doing it with friends that bond was even like grew exponentially. Like I didn't think that I would get out of there that day that easily, but I had a buddy there by my side, and he easily could have just dusted me up the mountain, but he wasn't going to leave me there, and it was like appreciation for them, and then also appreciation for the two legs that you do life on. It was super cool. I would definitely recommend it to anybody, and it's just a way to see the what the U.S. has to offer too, and what even the world has to offer. Right, to get out there and to experience it was very enjoyable for sure.
Okay, so what I'm gathering too is that this race was definitely harder than any of your triathlons that you've ever done. Is that true to say?
Yeah, yeah, it definitely was.
Okay.
It was just yeah, it was just so much longer. I mean, I'm sure that there's definitely obviously harder ones out there, and maybe we'll see what the next one is that I decide to take on. But it was significantly harder. I haven't done a full Ironman. That's on the list too at some point. Um, so we'll see how it stacks up to that. But compared to the 70.3s, it was just a whole different experience. I think also it's a different experience because you're kind of out in the middle of nowhere. It's like you don't really have the option or the comfortability to drop out, right? Like not that I ever did a 70.3 where I could call or where I did call it, but when you're in the Grand Canyon, there isn't that option, right? And that was probably the biggest difference for me is that you don't have a safety net, right? Like there's no other way to end that day than you climbing out. And I think that was probably what was maybe mentally more exhausting. Like when I was at the bottom, um, just thinking about options, right there, because there was a dark time when I was down there that I was thinking about how else does this happen? Like, can I spend the night and then I'll be more rested in the morning, or what the next step is, and there wasn't an option of, oh, I can just be done here. So I think mentally that was harder, and then as far as like triathlon goes, I think it was physically the same, just longer in time, right? Which I guess is every ultra as you get further, right? It's not in an instance more. It's probably even less physically demanding than a marathon or than a triathlon in any instant moment. But it's the compounding effect, I would say, that made it significantly harder, both mentally and physically.
Yeah. Kind of walking back here to just endurance sports in general, right? Because like you've accomplished some like insane races at this point and just insane physical feats. What belief of yourself uh, have you had to kind of actively unlearn by finally accomplishing some of these things that I'm sure when you set out to you wouldn't thought you would have been able to do?
Yeah. Well, it's actually funny because me and one of the other guys that does these things were talking about it yesterday, like how we got into it and who started it. Um, and it was just like one of our other friends from college was the first one that kind of started going more than just a 5 mile run, to see what they could do. And I think it's been a whole learning experience for me. I mean, at post college, I was fit and I cared about like lifting and eating well, but I was in a different stage of my life that was more focused around, um, I don't know, like work was obviously a priority. Work is still like a number one priority, but then also partying and traveling and that sort of thing. And the transition that endurance sports has taken me through is almost a, a huge life shift, right? Like at that point, I was working out for another goal. Now, like the goal is that experience, and it's not even necessarily like to do the hardest or the furthest or the longest, but just to get outside and to do something that's hard. It doesn't have to be like, I guess comparatively speaking, comparing yourself to what your prior self used to be was something you had to let go of to go to the next level, rather than
Hmm.
like when I did the first one, it was like, look how far I've come. But then at that point, you're not going to grow any further if you keep looking back. It's
Yeah.
maybe like, what more can I do, rather than like here's what I've already done. If that could be enough for a lot of people, and I think that was something that was probably enough for me after the first one. But then once you get back on the horse, there's so much more to do, and I think so much more that I can still do in front of me, whether that be in that same sports space or in any space in life. It changed the shift was from looking back on what I had accomplished to looking forward on maybe what I could, was probably something that had to shift or unlearn, I guess you could say.
Do you think those experiences from the endurance races that you've done, you've taken those learning lessons outside of just the sport itself, taken it into your life? And if so, how?
For sure. I think almost in everything, like in relationships, in work, I think it's been a pivot from, here's a goal, or look at the last year of what I've done, and that's impressive. So instead of thinking that way, I guess I could say, it's looking forward to what is possible. And that's definitely been an approach that I've taken from that into both my relationship with friends, family, etc., and work. Right? It's no longer, well, we've accomplished this, or we've gotten this project done, or whatever it is. It's now, how far can this go? I think it really raises the bar in every part of life.
Yeah, this is an idea and concept that we've kind of putted around here on this podcast in the last couple episodes. Because like yourself and Brandon and me, like we're very driven, ambitious people, always like aiming up, right? Brandon has a good quote: "Behind mountains or more mountains." Like there's always a new goal, objective that we want to accomplish when you reach the one that you are currently aiming for. Something I think we both struggle with and have been trying to figure out what's the best approach and trying to get other people's opinions on is, how do you remain, I wouldn't say grateful is the right word, but how do you stop and, enjoy, look behind you and enjoy the view, or like stop and smell the roses, right? Like accomplishment, or sorry, celebrate those small wins, even though, like you said, you've proven to yourself that you can do much more than what you just did, and that you could probably do a lot more. I think we're both like that. Of, we just accomplished this goal, what's the next one? I want the next task. But how do you kind of take a step back and take a breath and be like, okay, well, this is actually what I have done, and kind of celebrate yourself?
Yeah, and I guess that's probably a portion of my life that can probably always use work, because
Yeah.
I'm always on to the next thing. Like, I don't even like to sit for a movie, right? Like I like to be moving. I like to be active. So
Yeah.
I think reflection is important. I honestly probably am not as good at that as I could be. Um, but what I do try and do is take the moments that, like passions of mine that I enjoy, and use that and be in the present. So maybe not looking back, but I think if you enjoy the tasks as they come, that's a way to get the fulfillment, rather than looking back. I guess that's how I address it. Like when I'm in the mountains on the trail, I'm a big skier. I like to ski, also like touring backcountry stuff too, and then even just running. Like when I go on trail runs, I try not to run with music. I try to just like have the experience be that experience, not be focusing on something else. Right? When I'm running on the road or other things like that, I will plug in a podcast. I will plug in a book. But I think when I'm in the snow, like backcountry, or when I'm on the trail running, it's live in the now. And I think that portion of it allows me to reflect maybe a little bit, and maybe subconsciously too, is when you're enjoying what you're currently engaged in, you're able to maybe process some of what got you there. And I think that's probably how I do it. Not to say that's perfect. I think looking back is probably something that I could use work on too. but I think enjoying the now is how I would say I get as close as possible to that at this current stage in life.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's the conclusion I'm coming to, because we've probably been talking about this for, I mean, episodes come out every couple of weeks, but we were recording in batches as they go. But the conclusion I'm starting to get to is that it really is like for me, like a presence and like a being present and being grateful. And when you do those things, is that you start to appreciate in the moment what you're doing. And like when I'm on the bike, I don't listen to music just for pure safety, right? But like there's times when down in San Diego, like you go through like you hit like I'm thinking like Torrey Pines, you go bomb Torrey Pines and you're climbing up and all of a sudden you hit the downhill and it just opens up to the ocean right there and you just see like the waves crashing through and it's just it's a very surreal moment. And for me, it's like I could be like so focused on okay, what are my power numbers going down this hill, or what is it like, or but it's like when you remove yourself and just try to be in that present moment and then I just like oh my God, I'm thankful for this, like God, you made this. And like for me, I'm like, this is crazy, this is not normal, right? And then when I have that level of appreciation for things, that's when I notice I'm able to at least enjoy that moment and enjoy what we're doing right now is something that is like we are in like the time that you want to be in and like that um it's a it's like it's just an experience that you get to fully enjoy and live in. And so um yeah, I think that's just to reiterate what you're saying is that's where I'm starting to coming to that realization for myself.
For sure. I think that's also one of the cool things about like whether it's trail running or whatever it is that gets you outside, hiking, backpacking, etc. I think that's a big portion of that experience too, right? Like any time I work out in a gym, or even on a treadmill, things like that, right? I think you're a little bit disconnected from the full experience, right? And if you're always locked into music, and don't get me wrong, I definitely lift with music and I definitely run with music a lot of the time, or with audiobooks or podcasts or something like that. But I think mixing in getting on the trail or getting outside is a huge portion that allows you to understand that beauty. And I think that's where I potentially that's why so many people are getting into to ultra running and trail running and stuff like that, because it's not just in the park, or it's not just in something you see every day, right? It really forces you, whether that was the reason you're out there or not, to plug into nature and to enjoy what the world has to offer, other than the daily grind of work or city life or something like that.
Yeah, I find it pretty difficult on my because I'm prepping for a marathon right now, so I've been doing some long runs on the weekend. Um, and it's the combination of living the presence or in the present with struggling through the pain, right? Like when you get like past mile 10, it's like, okay, I'm in the weeds here. Like I gotta really lock in, focus on the form, focus on the stride. And so I feel like I get very tunnel vision and more focus on, okay, let's just do one step after another. Let's get to mile 11, let's get to mile 12, 13. I almost like tune out because in LA I'm running the strand, right, or like the boardwalk, so like I'm on the beach the entire time, and up until probably the point where I turn around, I get to see all these cool sights. I get to see the ocean, see the hills rolling into Malibu. But then when I turn around is that halfway point where I'm like, okay, my legs are starting to get tired, I'm starting to be fatigued, and so you almost lose the focus of living. I mean, it's a balance, I suppose, right? I mean, it's definitely true presence because I'm focused on the here and now of trying to get through the pain, but also not aware of the surroundings at all. So I'm trying to find that balance of kind of meshing the two. I don't know. You guys have done some crazier races than I. Um, is that
Yeah.
something that is accomplishable, or is it always going to be that you're kind of just pushing through this stuff?
Well, I guess one of the experiences, back to specifically the Grand Canyon experience, is I think you do reach a point, and for each person that's going to be different on when that brain does need to be shut off, and you're no longer focusing on being present, right? I think it's a balance because
Yeah.
coming out of the Grand Canyon, right, like that that hole that I was in, or the dark place that I was in, I guess is a better way to put it. One of the things that did help me overcome that was the guy I was doing it with, buddy that I was with. He gave me one of his AirPods or one of his headphones and just put it in, and it was just like just country music, and then just like pop punk, like just like some kind of either depressing or very like vibey music, but it's just enough to take your brain away from the present, right? So it's funny, we just talk about how being in the present allows you to kind of have the experience of the past, but I do think that there are portions in fitness where you're pushing yourself to your max, where it's also good to relinquish that a little bit too, and to
Hmm.
find a way to get away from that, especially if you're doing what you're doing with a goal in mind, right? Like obviously looking back on it, you can reflect and say that was a good experience, but also I think there are dark times where it's just get it done. It doesn't have to be. I think people are potentially lying to themselves if they say they're always in the now, right? Like that's something you always want to, I think, have as a key core value or core aspect of the activity, but you're not always going to live that way. I don't think that
Yeah.
that's reasonable to expect of yourself or of anybody else.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's something to strive for, but then once you get to a certain point, man, it there really is just like for me, it's like I think about it in like a football metaphor. I'm like, I just got to bite down the mouthpiece, and let's go. And there's like that there's like the waves. There's certain moments like I can think for just my race. I'm like, dude, this is awesome. I'm loving this. This is so sick. And there's also other times I'm like, this fucking sucks, and I do not want to be doing this right now. And when those moments come, that's when I usually that's like my line is let's bite down the mouthpiece, let's go. And then that will try and that's how I just get over the pain, get over whatever's happening, and then maybe another mile or two in, it's all of a sudden it's like okay, now you're back into being like a little bit more like oh cool, I saw this person on in the race, or this or that person was doing something funny, and you just kind of take your mind back off it, and there's like it's just like the ebbs and flows of any kind of um race workout thing like that. You're not gonna I think it's a goal to strive to be like to strive to be fully present, but it doesn't, I don't think it really can happen all the time because you're doing something hard,
Yeah.
and it's um whatever it is, it's like most of the time you're going to be doing it with some sort of goal too, right? So if you have a goal time, a goal pace to keep, you're pushing for that pace, and so you're putting some pressure on yourself to be like, all right, we got to go, we got to go, we got to hold this level, and all that to say, I think it kind of it there's just the ebbs and flows of it.
Yeah, I think it's also too doing these hard things, whether it's a hard training session or gym session, or you're doing high rocks training or CrossFit training, whatever it is. I think physically hard activities are probably the single most driver for being present, right? Because you can't really focus on anything else. I think maybe endurance sports is a little different because there are, the start of any endurance sport, you're pretty fresh. But at the same time, I think it is probably the only time where you are allowed to be with your thoughts. That is, uh, I guess maybe unless you're tuning in like a podcast or music or something, but like you do have to be fully present for that run. It's a good practice. I think a lot of people need to pick it up because not a lot of people nowadays to ever unplug completely.
For sure.
There's always like white noise going on in the background, right? Like you have the TV on, or you got a podcast or music playing while you're cooking, or a lot of people don't just take the time to sit with themselves and think and hear their own thoughts.
Yeah, and I think on top of that too, the hard things portion is huge. I definitely agree with that. You grow so much personally, and I think I think also though doing those hard things or getting out in the mountains with friends, right? That creates a bond too. It's that's kind of unique, right? Like it's the relationship you have with the person you do those things with is that much more entrenched after you do it, right? It's like
Mhm.
it doesn't have to be just yourself, right? Although a lot of those people are doing those things for themselves, right? And a portion of everything that I do is to learn more about myself, but it's also I think important to use that to leverage into other relationships and grow the bonds with friends that you have. I think it creates an even an even stronger support system than you would think you had with somebody or that you had previously when you go through something that's crazy hard that you don't even know if you're going to get out of and that person's there propelling you through it. I think uh, pacing on ultras too is been an eye-opening experience on that too. I just recently did that and that was part of like being there for that person was just as rewarding as actually doing the task yourself, right? And seeing everybody out there and seeing the community that sport alone brings, but it doesn't necessarily have to be just tied to that sport, right? When people are out struggling through things together, they learn to create a relationship. I think that's unique in that way.
Yeah.
That's something I want to think about more. I hear you 100% with it. Is um, the shared experience and it's the shared heart experience that you get in like the bonds you create is it is really interesting. And on top of that too, it's really cool to see your friends do cool shit, you know? And I remember being yeah, I like just going through like I'm trying to think. I saw a buddy do a 100-mile race and I had this was the first time I ever seen it. This was in college and I had no idea what it was or what he was really getting into outside of just like hearing it like David Goggins does 100-mile races and does these like crazy things and he had done one and we were out there and it's just like seeing like him go through that and you're like dude this like there's something unlocked by him and then you're there with like you're there too and you're supporting and you're just trying to like do whatever you can to help out the other person. You don't even know what they really need because they're just like they're just in this mode of just like going. But it's something I want to think about more because um, there really is a cool community experience once you like go through some of these things and you see like what community it drives, and then as well as the actor of like the reflection part of like that person just did it and we were all there to support him. And you hear like even how you had said like if you didn't have some of those guys with you in your race, you probably wouldn't have been able to like complete it the way you thought you could have.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like what I'm sure it's super interesting to me like what is that driver and if it really is just community and just having people around you to help pull you out. But it's a it's interesting for sure.
Yeah, the shared suffering, right? I'm reading that book Tribe by Sebastian Junger. Um, he basically goes in. It's a really easy read. So I think it's like 120 pages. The text is pretty big, very good spacing, so it's a quick one. But he talks about a couple different chapters that I've read so far. The uh, kind of comparison of Native American tribes to modern society during the frontier days when America was expanding across the continent. And also he talks about the blitz that happened in World War II when Britain was getting bombed by the Germans, and basically just reflects on how that the shared suffering of the World War II kind of wartime, of wartime experiences throws people back into more evolutionary communities that humans evolved in, right? These tribes of 50 people that have to sacrifice their own well being for the well being of the tribe. Like the well being of the community is more important than anything else. People are more willing to sacrifice and more willing to give themselves for the benefit of others. There is something to that. It's a cool read. haven't gotten to like the conclusion of why that is, but it is an interesting um, idea because like we talked about this on another episode where I think something a lot of people struggle with out of college immediately is, in school growing up being, any just being an athlete in any sport, and I'm sure with other types of communal activities as well, maybe in music with bands and stuff. But you grow up with shared suffering in the sports like football, soccer, whatever it is, with your teammates. You build those bonds, and then you go away. For us, it was for Brandon, it was sports, still football in college. For me and Parker, it was you go through a shared suffering with your brothers in a fraternity, and you get really close with them. And shared experiences, and then you leave college into, and it depends on where you go, right? Like I moved to LA where I didn't have a large friend group right immediately, but then you kind of lose those deeper relationships almost immediately unless you keep them from the friends from college. I think a lot of it's too is just people don't have that shared suffering, and I think that's why communities like the ultra, or not the ultra, the triathlete community that you found B down in San Diego, something I'm finding up here with like run clubs and like health and wellness. Like there's this thing called Coffee and Chill, which is cold plunges and saunas and a couple health and wellness tents, pop-ups and stuff. But going through even the cold plunges and like doing the saunas with people, you'll spark conversation. But then there is I wouldn't say super deep level of friendship, but more likely like you're actually going through something hard at the moment together. So there is like a moment of vulnerability with them where it's a little easier to connect than it is, say, like going to a bar and sparking up a conversation with a stranger.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I think the community that comes out of anything that's hard and having that shared experience is huge. It really connects on a more fundamental level for sure.
Mm-hmm. So now that you've kind of completed a bunch of races, what's next up on the docket? What's the next big one that you're training for currently?
That was actually something that I was talking about with a friend. Buddy from out of town was visiting this morning. We were able to get together over coffee, and he asked me that same question. And I actually don't know what's next yet. I am going to support friends on a couple things later in the year. I got a kind of a busy summer, and at that age now where it's bachelor parties and weddings and that season's kind of in full effect. So.
Mm-hmm.
Just trying to decide that, and that's kind of a unique experience too, right? Because it's in that period where, like we talked about earlier, it's always what's next, and currently I'm actually not in a position to tell you what's next. That's what I'm working on, and trying to find that too. I'm trying to see if it's something new physically or even something new emotionally or different in life. I think there will be a physical portion. I do enjoy that, and I think that's a healthy way too to stay fit. Is to do these ramp up periods, and I would say right now I'm in one of those rest periods. I think it gets too exhausting mentally and physically if you don't allow yourself time to kind of unwind and relax and not have anything on the docket. I kind of like to do it in like 3 and 6 month windows, like 6 months work up, 3 months rest, which is actually, now that I think of it, kind of similar to like almost what the military does with deployments and stuff, right? You have to go work up until your event, and then you have like a rest period, a period to unwind and disconnect from that to lock back in, almost more focused in a way going forward. So I think it will be a full Ironman at some point. I haven't picked the exact race or the exact date. That's on the list for next. But I think it's also another portion of what we talked about too is enjoying other facets of life, and because I've come this far and I'm able to do things now that I didn't used to be able to do is enjoy that, and then enjoy so much else that life has to offer, and then refocus in come time for fall, and then again in ski season too, and exploring too. I think that's a big portion, maybe getting into some more intense backcountry and mountaineering stuff this next year is something that I want to grow into.
That's awesome. So then in that process, do you have anything that you do that will help draw clarity from that, or do you just kind of, or will you just give yourself the time and just let the next thing come when it comes?
Yeah, I guess I, I feel like it will I'll know when the time is right to kind of lock back in. And then it's also finding that right event. I did originally want to do Ironman California in October, but I'm actually out of town that weekend. Have some stuff that's already planned, so that one didn't work, and then I haven't been able to find another one, right, because it's also part of the struggle of liking to do events and races like that, as opposed to trail running in the Grand Canyon. Like the Grand Canyon, we just chose that weekend. We went there and we made it happen. Having to rely on events is a little bit more difficult because then if that time frame doesn't work for whatever reason for this one, it's pre-booked travel. It is kind of a little bit frustrating because you're not just going to go do, or at least it's harder to go do a triathlon, especially Ironman distance, just self-supported on your own, and then they're also already expensive enough. So if there's not one local to California or somewhere else, traveling to get there is hard. So um, at some point, I think that's a big goal of mine, is to find the right one of those, and then just maintaining the things that I like to do that I learned through getting into trail running. I think at that point it'll tell me what the right thing is. Seeing my friends and supporting my friends do even crazier efforts and crazier events definitely sparks my interest. But it's also like, are there other things out there that I want to try, or other things out there that I want to get into? So hopefully the time will come. I mean, trying to live in the present, I think will guide me to those things. So getting out on the trail, getting out on the bike, and just enjoying that life will lead me the right path, whether that's to the next event or to something different. I think for sure.
Right. And it's all seasons too, where you had a season where it's grind and you got to go, and then now it's a season where you can take a little bit off and invest some time into relationships, or maybe it's work picks up or whatever it is,
Yeah,
right? And you can, and then once that season starts, I feel like you know when that season's about to expire almost, where it's like, okay, now I'm ready to get back into something, whether it's a physical task or even just some sort of change at all. It'll just present itself as it comes.
for sure. And even like cycling back into lifting, I took like when I was over the last year, probably I've been focusing on running and cycling, and kind of those more endurance and cardio sports, and those are not going to go by the wayside. But I think like just over the past couple of weeks, I've even refocused on getting back into the gym, and it's like, damn, I did miss this, and I do like this. So maybe the goal is that way too. I haven't yet set a goal, but trying out like high rocks and those sorts of things, I think are on the list, just to see if it's something that I want to do, because I've definitely been enjoying getting back into the gym the last couple weeks too. So we'll see if it can be that direction as well.
Yeah, man, I that was like my most recent change. Like now that I'm prepping for the marathon, I think I needed to start training for something. For a while, I was kind of in a bodybuilding phase where I was doing massive bulks and then massive cuts. Um, so I went up from like 155, got up to 180, cut down to 170, went back up to 185. Like now I'm sitting like 175 and prep for the marathon. But yeah, the gym just started getting, I stopped enjoying it. So I knew that was the time I was like, okay, I need to switch things up and I start training for something else. Um, Question for you guys though. How would you recommend in this marathon prep? Last time I did an endurance sport and just like started pivoting into endurance sport training, I lost literally like 15 pounds. Um, how do I keep that weight on this time for this prep?
Well, I guess one thing is do you want to have the weight on? I don't know, because if you do for marathons, I think, and for any endurance sport, I think there is actually probably a right weight, and maybe you're at it, but also some of those things are better lighter. Like I've even done 70.3s at 10 pounds difference, and it's pretty
Hmm.
significant, right? It's like at a different weight, you feel like a different person. So I would say if it is to keep things on, I think keeping a solid rotation of lifting, and even if it's lighter weight, but more of them, and then probably just making sure that you eat. I think you gotta
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
intake those calories, even forcefully, right? Just tons of protein, tons of mass. When especially after big efforts, right? Like your body's just going to crave that. I think you got to refill it, or
Yeah.
else that muscle is going to disappear, whether you want it to or not.
Hmm.
That's what I was gonna say. Is like for the 70.3 prep that I had, I ended up only losing 5 pounds. I lost some muscle mass for sure. Like I think it was definitely lost some of like the definition, but and the reason was that I was eating like crazy, like insane amount of calories per day. And that's because that's just something that I battle with when it comes to endurance sports. I'm like, when I look at, and maybe this is like a lame thing to think about, but I'm like, I just don't love the physique of like you see like the pro triathletes or like the pro marathon runners. I'm like, I just don't want to really look like that, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
and so that's something
Not
that
built
like
that way. Yeah.
right. And so that's something that that's like a driving factor for me where I'm like, okay, well then the simplest way is calories in, calories out. So if you're gonna burn this many calories, you need to eat at least close back to what that maintenance would be. And that's what I did, and I only ended up losing around 5 pounds. I think around the race time I was um hovering around 180, and I think I started around like 185 ish. And so it was a 5 pound difference, but um yeah, it's I think that's what I would say is just it's really eating the food. And then with marathon it's nice too because yeah, I mean I'm also training for the same marathon me and Tyler doing Surfers Point together.
Nice.
And what's nice about the marathon stuff is that it's only one discipline, so there is
Yeah.
more time versus triathlon. It's when you're in those dog days of training for tries, it's you have these brick sessions, so you have like a run, you'll have a bike, then a run, and then the next day you're swimming, and then you got to get back on the bike, and then you have another swim, and then like just it's just like the full body fatigue. The last thing you want to do when you're in like those like peak weeks is get into the gym because your body's tired, and then if you lift weights, then your body's even more tired for the next thing, and it doesn't even matter what muscle group you do. You do shoulders, the swim sucks. You do legs, the run and the bike sucks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You do back, the bike sucks because now you're hunched over, and it's just like you
definitely.
can't win. And so what's nice about when it comes to marathon is that you can kind of play around with where you plug the weight training sessions in. So that
Yeah.
way it's you can mitigate that overall pain from like the soreness and having to train through that.
Sure.
I think
Sure.
too, if you enjoy getting into the gym, even if it's twice a week, you'll be able to keep some mass. It might not be like Brandon said, the definition that you had before, but I think you can keep the weight on. You just have to work a little bit harder at it.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. For me, I think it's the eating. It's a lot more ground beef, a lot more red meat in general. Just high
Yeah,
calories. Anything I can get that's super high calorie, I'm in.
yeah. The high calorie red meat is definitely the best thing for that. Like especially after a big effort, your body's just going to crave protein after a long run.
Hmm.
It's not going to be something maybe that you want to force down, but you got to eat like pounds of ground beef just to get those grams of protein back to fill the muscle void so that it doesn't get burned off for sure. And then I guess making sure probably when you go into efforts, right? I think it's always a balance, and
Yeah.
I know that
Yeah.
Nick Bear talks about that too, obviously, because he's in the nutrition space. But like, do you always want to train fueled? I mean, I personally don't always like that, but if you are trying to keep the mass, I think that that's an important thing is to make sure that what is getting burnt when you're on these running efforts is calories that you put into your body either before or during that were made to be the calories for that effort, right? And then you're not running at a surplus or a deficit on a daily basis. You're just running kind of flatline as far as nutrition goes, and what you put in before or during was what you had planned to use for that effort, I guess I could say.
Sure. Sure. You guys got me here still? I feel like I'm cutting out.
Yeah.
I got you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, the videos just all stopped for me. Um, well, yeah, another question for you too, Parker, is like what right now is bringing you the most happiness in your balance of life, right? With relationships, work, and obviously fitness.
Hmm. That's a big one. Let's see. I think kind of just uh, relationships and both friends, girlfriend, family. Everything seems like it's in a really good space, and I don't know necessarily what's causing that, but having people in every facet of life, like even just how my friend group has evolved, high school friends, college friends, the people that are there now 5 6 years out of school are the people that are going to be there. We were actually just talking about this last weekend. The people that are in my friend group now are my friends for life, right? We've settled into that point where it's like even if you go through periods of becoming distance, and I had moved around a lot, so East Coast, West Coast, right? There are people that you don't see that whole time, but the people that I still see now, 5 years being removed from a highly social environment, are the people that I make time to see, and that they make time to see me. And I think that's the most fulfilling thing right now is like, not to say I'm not trying to make new friends or going out to meet people, but I have settled into, I'm happy with my my significant other. I'm happy with my friend group. I'm happy with my family, right? Like, it's not, there's no additional desire I have on that front. Obviously, I'll always strive to grow there, whether it's with those people and the relationship, or whether it's with new people. But that's probably the happiness right now. And then it's also just taking a step back and being thankful for health and fitness. I had a friend, and Tyler, you know him too, that had a pretty serious health scare recently, and
Yeah.
just reevaluating how fragile life is. Like I've gone to see him in the hospital now a couple times, and just it just resets what's important to you, right? Like, obviously
Yeah.
the friends and the relationship and family is what's making me happy, but even just the seeing that it is all that fragile and that it can be lost like that, right? Like, it's that's probably the most reassuring thing that I've seen. And luckily, he is supposed to recover fully. It's going to be a long road to get there, but appreciating that I am healthy, I'm able to go on a run, I'm able to go on a bike, I'm able to go to work every day, because obviously there's people throughout the world and throughout like your life that can't do that every day, but knowing somebody close to you that suffers something serious, where they lose all of those things, right? I mean, they didn't lose the family or the relationships around them, and for some that might even have strengthened it, but they did lose the ability to go on a run. They did lose the ability to work, even if it's just temporarily. It really reset how thankful I am for what my body's capable of, and allowing me to do all of these fun things.
Yeah, man, it's the practice of gratitude. That's for sure. Does really put in perspective of like the things that we take for granted, um, when you have those kind of out of the blue health scares and everything. But
For sure,
yeah,
it's like even just the simple things, like eating, right? Like all those things are skills that we're fortunate to have, and it can be taken from you like that. Like, it's crazy how fragile it is. So I think, I mean, it all kind of brings us back to that same thing of living in the now, but different ways of getting there, and different events that happen have made me more thankful for what I have, and some in good ways, some in bad, but all has shaped it to be a pretty happy, successful, looking up at life type of, yeah, like where I am personally.
well, I think we covered a lot of bases here, and appreciate you coming on today. Appreciate the conversation. Can't wait to hear what the next race is. That's gonna be exciting to hear what you're gonna start training up and ramping up for.
Definitely.
Um, yeah, if you guys put
Yeah.
together that go one more, or
Last man
it's
standing. Yeah.
last man
Last man.
standing, you guys
No, no,
do another
definitely.
one like that.
Yeah, appreciate you guys having me on. It's kind of my first one of these, so hopefully it went okay. But I'm always happy to support, and yeah, we'll definitely keep after it, and as those things pop up, you guys will be on the list of invites for us, and please do the same, because we love to partake in hard things with our friends. That's something that we like to do.
Yeah, no, thanks for taking the time, man. This was awesome. You're a beast, dude, and so we appreciate you taking the time and sharing some of your insights with us. It helps us for as just the interviewers, but I know it'll also help other people just hearing your perspective on things. So it's really cool.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.